Cardi B, let me tell you who announces if a recession is happening. If you have not seen, Cardi B was asking who is going to announce a recession. And since I know she's a big fan of mine and she watches all my videos, I'm going to be answering the questions for her in today's video. But before we get into the video, remember to leave a like, subscribe down below, and comment down below if you enjoyed this kind of educational videos. And as a thank you, here's a picture of a small cat. I'm just kidding, she probably has no idea who the heck I am and never watched any of my videos. But she did ask a fair question. Who announces when a recession is happening? Is it just J-Powell? Does he come out in a speech and says, hey, we're all screwed, we're in a recession? Is it Joe Biden? Is it a president? Is it just random Joe Schmo from the street? I've actually answered this question before in a different videos, but it's very simple actually. It's two negative GDP reports back to back, which just means the economy, rather than growing, is shrinking. So two negative GDPs, there's not an exact number, it can even be negative 0.01 and be considered a negative quarter. Currently, the first quarter of the year, which we've had, as was negative, about negative 1.5, and that's fine, you know, as long as we don't have this next quarter coming up, we should be good, right? I mean, we're all seeing how crazy things are getting, and more than likely this might be a negative quarter as well. Personally, my personal belief is actually we're probably going to have a positive quarter. Right now, the estimates are positive, about 0.90 positive, but they have been trending down. Keep in mind, we still do have a month into the quarter before we get those news. We're going to get the GDP report in late July. Now, a huge factor that people need to talk about is consumer spending. About 70% of the GDP report is consumer spending. So me and you going out there, going to Walmart, going to Target, spending our hard-earned money. That's kind of how the economy goes. You make money, you spend money, and it's big old cycles, right? Credit, debit, all that kind of crazy stuff. And we all know that consumers just haven't been spending the same amount of money, and the consumer sentiment has just been going down and down and down. It's actually at a 40-year low. It's actually lower when we had the 2008 financial crisis, which is actually lower than the 2000 bubble, which is just kind of crazy. Consumers are more scared right now to spend money than they were back in the day. And that is also not just because yes, there is inflation and there is prices of things going higher, but it's also because we're hearing all these recessions words everywhere. We're hearing this bear market. We're at the peak of bear market news being covered with articles, videos, and everything in between. So people are getting even more scared than they should be. And while the consumer spending is at 4 years lows, the inflation is at 40 years high. So we're just getting destroyed on both sides here. We have super high inflation and people are just not willing to spend money. I mean, who would have thought that pumping extra money into an economy would cause inflation? And we're seeing consumers spending less money just by seeing huge retail stores like Walmart and Target report earnings. They both reported about negative 20 to negative 30% of less foot traffic. So over the quarter, they've had less than 20 to 30% of people coming into their store, which hurts them, their bottom line. And this Walmart and Target, even if you don't like them, they're some of the biggest stores in the US economy. So if they're not making money, the GDP is for sure going to be going down. Here's the thing about inflation is that really hurts the poor people a lot more than the rich people. The main reason is that the rich people own a lot of assets that actually end up going higher with inflation. We're seeing price of real estate, we're seeing price of different things go higher. And yes, if you do own those assets, your prices are going up as well. But now usually the poor people don't own assets. They usually just have their cash or whatever savings they were able to save up, and they're seeing those savings be worth less and less. When we have huge amount of inflation like we're seeing right now, wages are not able to keep up with the rise of inflation. Sure, you might be getting a 5% raise or something like that. You might be thinking, oh, sweet, I'm going to be making more money. Well, inflation is between 8 to 9%. In the 70s, when we saw high inflation numbers, where inflations were sitting in the 10s to 15%, that people were getting raises of between 5 to 8%, but they were still down on the year. And that caused eventually to stagflation when, companies were making less money. They just weren't able to have that extra money to hire people, which means they had to lay off people. And with high increasing inflation, caused a stagflation system. And actually, as of a few days ago, the central bank announced that we might be in a similar situation. There are 3 reasons to believe we may be in a very similar stagflation situation that we are like in the 70s. There are 3 reasons: are change supply issues, so things are harder to, trade between the world countries. Number 2 is because right after the pandemic, GDP did go higher, but it was artificially pushed up by all the extra money that was injected into the economy. It's pretty much like a pump and dump. Somebody artificially invested a bunch of money into a company, goes up, sending, with the government putting a bunch of money into the economy. Well, the economy really wasn't thriving and was really struggling than anything. And now it's all kind of coming down crashing. We're paying the prices for pumping that fake money into the economy. And lastly, the last clue of why we may be heading into a stagflation is because J-Powell has committed to raising interest rates to fight off inflation, which makes sense. Okay, we need to have lower inflation because things are just getting way too much out of hand. But now if we increase the interest rates, that means people are less likely to spend money. And we know people are not want to really spend money because the price index are saying it's at the 40-year lows. But if we keep raising interest rates to fight off the inflation, then less and less people are going to spend money, which is going to cause more layoffs. And now everybody just gets screwed. So you kind of see that the government is pretty much in a catch-22 situation. Yes, they can try to raise interest rates and beat off the inflation, but then it's going to cause a stagflation system because people are going to have to get laid off. Okay, let's not raise the interest rates. Let's keep interest rates low like we have been doing, and inflation just keeps going higher and kick the can down the road. Regardless, they're most likely heading into a recession. Personally, like I said, I do think this next quarter might be coming out positive, and I do think we're probably more than likely heading to recession Q3 and Q4. And one of the main reasons I believe this is because we actual unemployment numbers aren't sitting at all-time low. We see a lot of times that before recession, the unemployment numbers sit at an all-time low and they slowly start making their way up. That leads us into a recession. And I don't think we're seeing those numbers just yet. Now, keep in mind that is my personal belief. Almost everybody out there thinks we're heading to recession in this next quarter. Like I mentioned before, we are seeing the trend of recession pretty much being searched by everybody on the internet. It's almost sitting at all-time highs. So we might be in a situation that we're so scared of a recession that we might just get pushed ourselves into a recession because people don't want to spend money. Now, let me tell you what I'm doing if we do head into a recession. We all know that the stock market has been taking a beating. The crypto market is pretty much down the dumpsters. And real estate is kind of still hanging on really high, but interest rates make it really hard for you to snag any good profit. Personally, I actually don't plan to buy any properties in the next 6 to 9 months. I just want to see how things play out. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think we're going to see a stock market crash, but I do think we're going to see a slow decline until we find some steady balanced prices. I've bought enough before we get taking benefits of really low interest rates that I'm okay with sitting in the sidelines for now. Well, for my stocks and crypto portfolio, you guys know I sold almost nearly top on both the crypto and stock market. Now, I do have been holding a lot of cash on the side. I've been telling you guys that I've just recently finally added some positions back in the stock market. Now, I do plan to dollar cost average weekly through monthly, depending on how I think the charts play out. And same thing with Bitcoin. I'm going to be staying away from pretty much any altcoins and mostly just focusing on Bitcoin and Ethereum for that. Now, I do think we might see another push in both the stock market and the crypto market before a longer term bear market, which will kind of explain why I do think that this next GDP will be positive and we won't head us into recession, which might pump up the markets. And then eventually the Q3 and Q4 will push us into recession. Well, that's what I plan to do when my long-term portfolio is heading into a recession. Let me know in the comments below what you think we're heading. Are we heading to a recession? Are we not heading into a recession? And what is your plan during these moments? If you drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below, you guys know it takes me a lot of time to make these videos and find out all this information for you guys, for posting them up here for free on YouTube. And as always, peace.